Except I'm just going to break it up because I find, by and large, students are doing better with shorter video as opposed to super long video. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so this first question here is Mel and Roz bought 23% of APCO's preferred stock. Pete and Shanae bought 20% of the common stock. Sal and Rick bought 17% of the preferred stock. If there was no other stock owners, were no other stock owners in APCO, what fraction of APCO's preferred stock remained? So I hope that you caught right away that there's a difference between preferred stock and there's a difference between common stock right there. And so the idea here is for you to go ahead and ID the question. So you always want to start off by identifying the question, which is the question is what fraction of APCO's preferred stock remains. So I'm just going to put stock remained because that's the question. And then I always call it state your path, but just listing the facts of the question. So, we know that I'm going to just put Mel and Ross together. They bought 23% of the preferred stock. And then Pete and Shanae, they bought 20% of the common stock. And then Sal and Rick, they bought 17% of the preferred stock. So the question is about, as we already talked about, the preferred stock. So we can go ahead and just kind of cross out Pete and Shanae because they bought common stock, and that doesn't help us answer the question. So then from there, we can go ahead and add up the percentages of Mel and Ross right here, which is 23. Make that 3 a little bit better. 23, and then Sal and Ross, which is 17. So 23 plus 17 equals 40, or 40%, because we're adding up percentages here. And then so if they bought 40%, then, if it's 100% of the company, then 60% is left. And so let me just stop here a moment, because whenever they're asking you a percentage of something, you're assuming the whole is the whole number 1, or a fraction of that, or a percent of that. And so the whole is 100%, or in a fraction, it's the whole number 1. So whenever they ask you what remains, you're going to be taking that away from 100%, the full value of stock in the company. And so they have 40. So of course, 100% minus 40% is going to give us 60%. Now, then you have to convert that 60% to a fraction, because the question asks in terms of fraction. And so we're going to put 60 over 100. That crosses out. We're going to go ahead and reduce out a 2 to simplify it. And that's going to give us that's going to give us 3/5. And then we're going to come up here and see our answer is C in that case, 3/5. So again, as we're working through these problems, we're just identifying the question, and we're stating our path, and we're just clicking ahead. So number 2, it says Cindy baked 325 jumbo cookies for her son's school bake sale. The school enjoyed her treat so much, they asked her to make 515 jumbo cookies the following week. Jackie used 5 10-pound bags of flour to make the first batch. Using the same recipe, how many 10-pound bags of flour will she use to fulfill the second request? Okay, so here you have to see that, of course, we're going to ID the question. and the question is how many 10-pound bags of flour. So I'm going to say how many bags of flour. Okay, and then you have to recognize that there's a relationship between the result and the amount of bags you use. So we know for 300, so now we're doing state your path. So for 325 jumbo cookies, she used 5 bags. And so the question is, if she's going to make 515 jumbo cookies, how many bags will she need? Okay, and so at this point, you might recognize that it's a ratio. Well, but if you didn't, how would you know? Well, the question will give you some language. So when they say things like at the same rate as, or at the same speed, or using the same recipe, or at the same rate, that's how you know that you are being given a ratio or proportion, if it doesn't specifically give you that language. So that's just a hint of what you would use. And then you would just go ahead and set up this proportion. So you would say 5 10-pound bags gives you 325 cookies. And that is equal to or proportional to, we don't know how many bags will give you 515 cookies. And you will notice that when you set up your proportion, you have to have a like to like, or meaning if you have cookies up here, cookies has to be up here. If you have flour up here, flour has to be up here. You have cookies down here, cookies have to be down here. If you switch these, you're going to get the answer wrong. And when you get multiple choice selections, one of the selections is going to be if you mistakenly flip these, and if you had cookies up here and bags of flour down here, that's going to be one of the selections that if you made that mistake. So you have to be very careful when you're doing proportions to keep like thing to like thing. So you have flour up here, cookies over here, cookies down here, cookies down here. And so that's kind of how that works. Now then, it's a simple 2-step process to solve a proportion. Step 1 is you multiply the cross product. So that just simply means the number that has a number across from it. So 5 times 515. And then that's going to be 2,575. And then you divide that by the leftover number or value, and that's 325. So you're going to divide that by 325. And then you're going to get 7.9. And you're just going to round that to 8. So then the answer would be 8 bags there. So again, that's a GED problem utilizing proportion. Then now we're going to come down here to our final one.